Hello and most welcome to 2009. 2009. This year, the statue Dream was made by Jaume Plensa. It can be found in St. Helens at Merseyside. It's called Dream. It looks oblongated, very lovely. It's all in dolomite. Dolomite, indeed. Dolomite. All made in dolomite. Very dolomitic, indeed. By Iain McGilchrist, we're going to continue with The Matter with Things. Chapter 23, Flow and Movement. Last time we looked into how resistance or oppositions is what make permanence possible. This is what McGilchrist calls, and others, coincidentia oppositorum. How they together makes what is stable. So instability is a prerequisite for there to be permanence, stability, eternity. This we have taken up earlier with connection of James Gleick and David Peat. How disturbances, molestations, contradictions create what is, what exists. One can think of a stream in a river. This stream or maelstrom comes to existence thanks to there being stones adjusting waters, coinciding with the stream, and instead of diluting it or making it weaker, it makes it much, much stronger. Actually, the strongest force there is in the universe. We are also seen as to become absolutely serious, you need to have absolute humor. This is another development of the right hemisphere. It is the encompassing. It is complementary in its function, not one-sided, not either or, but both, or neither, or all of those options. It is actually unlimited. It is not only one-sided, but it goes beyond one-sidedness. We spoke about conceptual thinking earlier also. The conceptual is the cutting off of a piece of reality of thinking and giving it some sort of essential absoluteness in contradistinction to what surrounds it, thereby creating a true origin. We need then both continuity and discontinuity together to ride the twin steeds. Bergson, Henri Bergson, the honorable French philosopher, spoke about protension and retention, the forward thrust and the backward thrust that together reinforced each other and became much stronger. I will continue on page 959. Third paragraph. The oneness is in the manyness. And the manyness in the oneness. This whole construction, he writes of the cosmos, therefore begins with a dissonance and must begin this way. This way.
I did it my way.
My way. Yes. Very good. My way. Dissonance is not external in some sense to the music, but itself part of the music. I did it my way. Part of the music. I will consider the analogy of flow with music shortly, shortly. What he calls the products of nature, the fruits of nature's generative quality, wherein its very essence lies, are never wholly distinct in themselves from nature or from one another. One another. They are only superficially thing-like echo. Like the physicos of Ionia, but here only superficially thing-like. Superficially thing-like. Hence the comparison to eddies in a stream. Eddies in a stream. Which, although inconstant, constantly inconstant, flowing on, and yet renewing themselves, preserves for a while an identity distinguishable from the overall flow, but not separate from it. Not separate from it. An identity which arises from the very resistance which the water encounters within itself. Within itself. Within itself. How is it possible? Is it possible? What do you say, Eddie Murphy? Come in. For Schelling, then, things did not have the meaning they have for us. For us. They were more like processes, elements brought forth from nature, but themselves, in turn, giving further process to nature. To nature. He complained that from our customary point of view, the primordial productivity of nature disappears in the product. For the philosopher, he warns, the product must disappear in the productivity. In the productivity. In the productivity. What do you say, Echo? Productivity. What is more, Schelling sees the very act of philosophizing, which is nothing less than seeing into the nature of the world, as itself a liberating, creative act of nature on behalf of nature. On behalf of nature. On behalf of nature. Listen to the following. Of nature. Of nature. To nature. To nature. Where are you, Eddie Murphy? Come in. To philosophize about nature means to raise her up from the dead mechanism in which she seems to lie imprisoned. Imprisoned! Imprisoned! And in freeing her, to bring her back to life, so to speak, and to restore to her own free unfolding. To restore to her her own free unfolding. It means, in other words, to tear oneself away from the common view, das Man, which sees in nature only whatever happens to be. At best, sees her activity merely as a fact, not the activity in itself. The activity in itself. The activity in itself. This is an account of philosophy reanimating the dead structure as perceived by the left hemisphere by attempting to regain the living process perceived by the right. Perceived by the right. What philosophy should be doing, as Schelling believes, and as do I, rather than the reverse process. Which is often serves in Anglo-American analytic philosophy. CERN! CERN! Where is my John CERN? Hashtag turning the living process into a dead structure. A dead structure, a concept. Conceptualization. It is easy enough indeed. It happens automatically and unconsciously for us now, to see the mechanism and the parts, what is hard, without retraining one's attention to get back to seeing the living whole. To bring the corpse back to life. Frankenstein. What did you do, Frankenstein? You created a monster or life. Life. It's life. It becomes more vivid, and alive. Back to life. Alive and kicking.
Ouch. Corpse back to life.
Bring corpse back to life. Welcome, Echo. The laughter of Frankenstein. Ha 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 ha. Schelling held that there was a primordial energy which is sometimes referred to as Weltseele, which, like the stream, flows through the cosmos unimpeded until it encounters a difference within itself, a point of resistance. A point of resistance. Then something is precipitated out of nature, like the eddy in the current, a vortex, a vortex, a vortex.
Bloop, 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 bloop.
Very good. This product of nature is nothing mechanical or inert. It flows with vital energy itself, constantly renewing itself through the flow, which is both its cause and its effect. Its effect. Derived from this vital force's internal resistance, eternal resistance from within the Klein bottle, doing its work. Yeah, yeah. It is like a distinguishable pattern within the flow, precipitated out of the flow by the resistance in the flow. By the resistance in the flow. For Schelling, nature continually evolves due to resistance, the resistance that it carries within itself. It is within itself, not outside, not somewhere else. Nature is originally pure identity, self-identity, truism, nothing to be distinguished in it. Now points of inhibition appear, against which, as limitations to its productivity, nature constantly struggles, constantly struggles. While it struggles against them, however, it fills this sphere again with its productivity. With its productivity. It becomes more and more productive. He also at times expressed the nature of being as a balance of contrary tendencies, a contractive force, gravity, and an expansive force, light. All dynamic processes, he believed, could be seen as the interaction of these contrary but ultimately inseparable forces, a coincidentia oppositorum. Oppositorum. To be cut in stone. Coincidentia oppositorum. Oppositorum. Coencia. Coincidencia. This point is essential for there to be a world at all, according to Schelling. The forces have to be part of one and the same process. Otherwise, either contraction would come to dominate, so that there would be no manifest universe, or else expansion would come to dominate, causing the universe to fly apart and dissipate at an infinite speed. At an infinite speed. The final result would be the same in either case. There would simply be no world. No world! Oh dear! What do you say, Echo? Oh dear! There would be no world. Why? What? Coincidentia oppositorum. Så, var slutade vi någonstans, Kalle?
Det vet jag inte tyvärr. Någonstans där på sidan.
Ja, det är en liten olycka här. Ska vi se. Okej, jag börjar igen här. Mhm. Can guarantee the continual coexistence. A model for this is once more a magnet whose opposing poles are inseparable from each other, even though they are opposites. Even though they are opposites. Opposites. Why? They are opposing paths, opposing each other. This equilibrium of flow with resistance, of expansion with, let's go to the next page, contraction, according to Schelling, underwrites the continuing process of nature as a whole. Whole with W or only H. What do you say, Echo? Whole or whole?
Oh.
Great.
We thought that W is old. Old. Old.
Oh.
With a cutting. Old. 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 Visible nature in particular, and as a whole, is an allegory of this perpetually advancing and retreating movement. The tree, for example, constantly drives from the root to the fruit, the root to the fruit. And when it has arrived at the pinnacle, it again sheds everything and retreats to the state of fruitlessness. Of fruitlessness. And makes itself back into a root. Into a root. only in order again to ascend. To ascend, once more to ascend. The entire activity of plants concerns the production of seed, only in order again to start over from the beginning and through a new developmental process to produce again only seed and to begin again. To begin again. To begin again. The entire activity of plants concerns the production of seed only in order to start over from the beginning and through a new developmental process to produce again only seed and to begin again, again and again, spiraling up, advancing, progressing, and developing, constantly going forward and forward to make more, to advance, to make adjust. Yet of all visible nature appears unable to attain settledness and seems to transmute tirelessly in a similar circle. Circle, or I would say spiral, spiraling up, ever advancing. Resistance brings to birth beauty and complexity, and complexity. It is worth making a brief diversion at this point to take a look at resistance to flow and just how creative it is in its very nature. No obstruction in the path of a flow is required for it to become turbulent, turbulent, turbulent.
Any inequality in speed or viscosity within the flow itself can lead to turbulence. Bloop, bloop, bloop. Turbulence, the essence of change and development. Turbulence. However, in cases where there is a solid obstruction, the resulting flow exhibits surprising new qualities. New qualities.
Qualities.
Qualities. From a straight flow in a rigid, linear channel meeting, a simple, smooth, straight-edged obstruction, such as a rod placed at right angles to the flow, the most extraordinary richness of design can emerge like statues, like the dream. Like the dream, the sculpture dream, evolves from obstructions and contradictions. This is how development goes. This is how they expand and become more and more. In this way, they develop. It is an unfolding of potential that is completely unforeseen, unpredictable, new, not following the classical laws of physics, not following the law of the excluded middle, until it manifests itself as eddies, as beautiful and strange as a plant emerging from a seed. Miracle indeed. Miraculous. It is the perfect image of multiplicity emerging from unity through resistance. Through resistance. Through resistance. The images of the following pages are all taken from a laboratory experiments in which a simple flow was interrupted by a single straight-edged regular obstruction of some kind. Of some kind. The pattern of flow was made visible by pulses along a very thin platinum wire in the water. Causing the release of tiny bubbles into the flow, which show up as white lines on a photographic plate. On a photographic plate. Why not have a look at the images? The first image, 44, shows vortices in a water stream in the wake of a rod of a circular cross-section placed perpendicular to the stream. Figure 45 is a detail from figure 44, which makes the resulting pattern more apparent. More apparent. The four images of figure 46 show an identical setup. The vortices in a water stream in the wake of a rod of circular cross-section placed perpendicular to the stream. However, different pulse rates and different durations have been employed in generating hydrogen bubbles. Hydrogen bubbles! Each image has been reflected about the rod so as to incorporate a mirror reversal. A mirror reversal. Absolutely beautiful. I will make a little. So here we see the difference or the contradictions by the two triangles that are opposing each other. And what I would like to point to here in this whiteboard is that there are healthy contradictions. And it means like the stream, it takes in resistance and uses it. It becomes a part, it internalizes. There are no obstructions. It doesn't become rejected, or as Derrida would have it, it does not become put down, or something that is prioritized will like get it a lower status in the hierarchy or reject it. No, it is taken in. And this is what makes it possible for have a spiral, when the contradictions are allowed to come in. Unhealthy is when you have the circle. We're using the circle in a special way here. And if they get too hard, the contradictions, reinforced, almost like trenches, there is no development anymore. You come back to the same starting point where you left off. We need a resistance. We need a contradiction, so to speak. For there to be seriousness, it must be humor. Without the both, we have the circle. We have neither seriousness nor humor. And without having a, so to speak, Parmenidean existence that doesn't allow for the opposing pair, the opposing side of the pair of non-existence. You will not have existence either. You lose it. You lose the essence in the struggle to observe the idea of an absolute rejection. It is the encompassing, involving of the resistance that comes from within. Look here, it doesn't hit anymore. It is a spiral, although it is just in one plane. Can you understand when it hits, you make a circle, but if it goes a bit up top, thanks to the contradiction, you have a glorious development instead. This is the idea with the maelstrom, with the eddy. It constantly develops, and in that process, which is a live process, not a dead object, where it has a negative surface around it, it's alive. Like the monsters constructed by Frankenstein, almost. But this is the contradiction, is the resistance that makes it alive again. Thank you. Recording starting. So one comment here is on page 959. 959. And on the second line here, on the third paragraph, the whole construction therefore begins with a dissonance and must begin this way. So the disturbance is a necessity. We go down a bit to the next paragraph, third line. Third line on the next paragraph. They are only superficially thing-like. So things themselves will not be as fixed anymore once we allow the contradictions to enter, to interpenetrate. Remember the stream. It's the resistance, the inner resistance in the stream that makes, for as in the illustrations, the permanent eddies, the maelstroms, the vortices.
One could say, as it says in the end of this paragraph, but not separate from it, an identity which arises from the very resistance which the water encounters within itself. Very important. The resistance is already there, already within. You go to the next page. The fourth line on the second paragraph there that begins with this. And it's a little pointer to Searle here, or Saul. What philosophy should be doing as Schelling believes, and as I do, as do I, rather than the reverse process, which it often serves in Anglo-American analytic philosophy, turning the living process into a dead structure. It deadens once you cut it out, or you start looking for the pure origin only in a fragmented piece. You kill it off. It becomes a true ghost in no positive sense at all. Becomes soulless. The next paragraph, speaking about the Weltseele, the world soul. And in the second line, which like the stream, it's an excellent metaphor, or even a parallel, which like the stream flows through the cosmos unimpeded until it encounters a difference within itself, a point of resistance. You see now the much needed opposition. Coincidentia oppositorum, or opposites attract, or contraria complementet sunt.
Contraria sunt complementa.
Thank you. Contraria sunt complementa. As from quantum mechanics on the weapon shield of Niels Bohr, the contradictions are constitutive. They are not something to reject, marginalize. This contradiction, makes everything alive, working, having meaning. Remember what we learned from David McNeill, where gesture and speech together makes for the instability that can produce meaning, that makes meaning a possibility. Very important. Think also of body and mind. We seem to see mind as something absolutely disjunct from body. It's a bit like our thoughts are non-significant. They do not have a result, and every thought is just. With coincidentia oppositorum, you can understand that they can be different and at the same time same. That is the important point. That's also the doing, as Iain McGilchrist here showed, of the right hemisphere. taking in oppositions, thereby strengthening, making it possible to body and mind be one thing, as well as absolutely different. Not a thing for the left hemisphere or Anglo-American philosophy. And as we read further, this product of nature is nothing mechanical or inert. This is life itself. This is the Weltseele. This is also the spirit of man. This has force, and it has the potentiality to be eternal. We go to the next page. 961. I will not read the whole quote from Schelling here, but there is an excellent metaphor with the plant and how it constantly renews itself. We human beings can renew ourselves by taking in contradictions. We become eternal. We become strong, everlasting. The strengthening of coincidentia oppositorum is incredible. It is what holds together whole galaxies. It holds together thoughts, doings, intentions. And even more so, if we go to the third or the subchapter here, resistance brings to birth beauty and complexity. And here's an interesting thing on the second line. No obstruction in the path of flow is required for the stream, that is, for it, to become turbulent. Any inequality in speed or viscosity within the flow itself can lead to turbulence. It is even inherent. Can you see how difference and contradictions is built into the very nature of reality? In the midst of everything, it is already imminent. It's already here. And this builds for an extraordinary richness of design that can emerge. This is what makes for newness. And in the 10th line here, we have that it is absolutely, completely unforeseen. About 10 lines down. It is an unfolding of potential that is completely unforeseen until it manifests itself as eddies, as beautiful and strange as a plant emerging from a seed. Isn't that grand? Come in, Kalle Lundahl.
Yes, very beautiful and important observations, indeed. is both want to repeat it. No obstruction the path of a flow is required. For it to become a turbulent, any inequality in speed or viscosity within the flow itself can lead to turbulence. And then a previous page, I think the most significant sentence in this in the lecture of today was here on 960. The penultimate phrase on this page. A model for this, once more, a magnet whose opposing poles are inseparable from each other, even though they are opposites. So it's like in those two arrows, Hans, that you wrote on the whiteboard.
Yeah.
So we cannot say that one side is more important than the other. We need the both.
Definitely.
And let me, with your permission, I will share a document with you briefly. And I have been working on a research paper.
I think you mentioned, yes, indeed.
About water logic. And water logic has been made famous by Edward de Bono, the Maltese philosopher. Let me see, hopefully you will be able to see it now. It's paused. Why is it not sharing? Okay, let me share again with you, dear listeners and Hans. So here you should be able to see it now. Water versus rock logic in Greek New Testament editions. And let me explain the point. I can actually read the abstract very quickly. The ransom saying in Mark 10:45 is a key verse in Mark's Gospel. Even the Son of Man came not to be ministered unto, but to minister and to give his life as a ransom for many. The 5th century manuscript Washingtonianus uses the noun lutron path instead of lutron ransom, present in most manuscripts. And then I say that so we have two opposite nouns there. And I proposed that we should have both in the main text. So using Mark 10:45 as a case study, the paper employs Edward de Bono's water logic and Jacques Derrida's parenthesis. To show how these two concepts can point the way toward a new textual presentation in Greek New Testament editions. We will show how it's possible and necessary to include both lutron and lotron in the main text without privileging one or the other. And let me see how I propose to do it. Let me see. Water logic. This is the Edward de Bono, which we can just suppose to McGilchrist's chapter 23 about the flow that we have been reading here. So my point is here that what does this have to do with the topic of the two variants in Mark 10:45? Since one of the variants is about water, washing, lutron. The occasion is excellent to introduce Edward de Bono's water logic into New Testament textual criticism. And then water logic has its advantages against rock logic, which is very crude and harsh. Instead, we need water logic, which is supple. And water logic, the concept is of movement. Where do we flow to?
Yeah, it's the flow is more important than the fixations. Yeah, very good.
And Jesus himself, he speaks that he would give living water. So Jesus encourages this way of thought. And we should vary of hard metaphors such as the wall, which stands tall between two people arguing against each other. We should a square bracket looks like a wall in the square brackets with prison walls capturing the text placed inside them.
Yeah. Very good, yeah.
And then I use I speak of parentheses, and Derrida has an excellent metaphor about flowers, but I will not mention it now. It's complicated. And then I actually quote McGilchrist here. The psychiatrist Iain McGilchrist has warned of the modern Western tendency to reduce curved lines to an indefinite number of rectilinear ones. We do not find straight lines in nature. Thus, both nature and neurolinguistics encourage us to avoid signs such as square brackets that are unnatural for us. Excuse me. Water logic stands for indivisibility. We cannot exclude some manuscripts affirm that since they are later, they are irrelevant. The Catholic cardinal and philosopher Nicholas of Cusa said that truth is not like other things or put together from other things, but indivisible. Intellect moves in straight lines, whereas reality is curved.
Oh, yeah.
That it is, and the curve of reality can never be reached how many straight lines you use. And this is a reference to McGilchrist also. And then actually taking also then Carrovelli, but I will not go into that. He has a very nice metaphor. So my my proposal was to actually to put, this is my neologism. You see, I include both variants in the text. You see, with the help of parentheses.
Ah, yeah. Okay.
So lutron means ransom, lutron means bath and washing, but now I have both. So nature is inclusive, and one I will show you how textual critics. So there is how I think a little bit stupid the textual critics are. They take metaphors without thinking what they imply. So these textual critics, two textual critics Aland, say that this manuscript is not important. It's an independent text. But I argue then there is no independence in nature. Quantum physics has disproved the notion of that something can be independent.
Exactly, everything is codependent, yeah.
And so forth and so forth.
Oh, very good, fantastic.
Yes, McGilchrist has been very, very helpful to inspire me. But also, of course, De Bono.
Yeah,
But
De
I propose
Bono
that
was great. He really understood this with too much truth and too one-sidedness and marginalization of the untruth leads to fixation.
I propose that we end there, Hans.
I thank you very much, and thank you for sharing your paper there, Kalle. Very interesting. See that these ideas come into good use. I would say they are absolutely invaluable for the future. This is the herald of the new way, without a doubt. Thank you very much, Kalle Lundahl.
And thank you,
Thank you.
McGilchrist, and Edvard De Bono, and Hans.
Oh, too kind. And thank you everyone for tuning in. Have a nice day, morning, or afternoon. Bye bye for now.